And welcome to Talkin the Gridiron here. I'm Daren, Fatboy Fadeaway Sports, Jimmy Pilato, Variety Sports Network, Jordan Maxson will be in with us here in a little bit. We're here with you in an off season here, getting you kind of set up here through the early spring here into summer, into the draft. Kind of set you up as we get into the football season here. Believe it or not, it will be here sooner than we thought. Jimmy, we're going to get into a little AFC North today, a little NFL rule changes. It's good to see you again, my friend. I know you're back at school this week. How you doing?
I am recovering. Last week we took to recover, so our school district decided that it would be a really good idea to have spring break, which this year got 2 extra snow days assigned on top of it. We have the week that we come back from spring break. We have our assembly that we were supposed to have before spring break on the Friday that we come back. So missing instruction time there. We're behind. I'm not going to lie to you. Even though it's social studies, we're behind. And now this week starts our state testing. So I had my first 3 periods go an hour and 6 minutes, and my last 4 periods went 38 minutes because it's going to they're like, oh, it'll all even out at the end. Trust me, we sat down, we did the math, minutes in chair. It's like bullshit, minutes in chair. You don't retain anything in 36 minutes. I can teach you a flawless lesson, and your brain is still not going to get up to the speed that it needs to be able to get. You can't do that. That's too much. It's too little. It's too little time. There's a sweet spot, about 45 minutes. If we can make all classes 45 minutes, this is what I'm going to run for Secretary of Education on. We need 45-minute classes, no block periods, 3 recesses a day. What else do we need, Daren?
Tell your class president. Tell them this is what I need you to do for. We need to ask for this with it. So that's
I wish we had an editor that was good enough to do it in post where we could have the have you seen when Charlie Chaplin played like Hitler? Yep. Yeah, I want the music from that scene in the background. And I want to make sure that all the kids have an interest in vested learning. And the teachers know that they need to make it realistic and applicable to their life.
Everything we need on it. Hey, can I say something to you real quick? I know at VSM there've been some changes we made here a little bit with things. We've reached out to a few people like John and Out of Your Falcon Mind. I know they said on their show yesterday they're not going to be with VSN anymore, but they're going to go to their own thing, but they still support us and all that. And I just kind of wanted to take a second to those guys were on one of our last shows, and I feel like they've always supported us, and I know they continue to be with us in that way. So I wanted to kind of shout them and appreciate them for what they kind of brought to our network and a chance for us to I felt like I kind of grew from getting to know them and do shows with them. So I wanted to shout them out, and I wish them nothing but the best of luck with that. And I know here with Talking the Gridiron, we're trying to kind of do this every couple of weeks, or, we're kind of figuring our way out through the off season here. We're not here to, kind of give you the pump and fist every single day with it, but we're going to kind of.
Daren, I hate to break it to everybody. I don't think we could have outdone Jesus yesterday.
No,
Jesus was going to get yesterday. That was an automatic win. We shouldn't. You throw the tape out, bury it at midfield. We don't need to worry about that.
We're winning that one. I know that.
No, and. Tonight we're going up. I think it's Caitlin Clark's game tonight.
Now they ended Iowa beat LSU. They won that one. That game's over, so they got that. So we're done. We're competing right now against a little baseball here, a little UConn, USC women's basketball going on right now. Iowa did win, so I think a lot of people are tuned in right now to kind of want to get that AFC North talk that you talked about. But you wanted to start with what though? I think today that I thought was kind of interesting.
Before we get into everything, because we mentioned it a couple of times, but rule changes will be first. At Variety_Sports_ is where everybody can follow along. That is important. Follow, subscribe, like the video. Big shout out. I agree. Out of Your Falcon Mind deserves a ton of credit. They showed us. I mean, they're part of the reason. I think I said that last week or the last time that we had this show. They're part of the reason why the offseason shows were agreed upon. And yet it sucks because we're all trying to build this thing, but that's part of it. Every network that we've ever come in contact with that you've seen on your screen, on the computer, or on television has at one point had either personnel or some show that was there and then left. And you're like, oh, I mean, look at Barstool and Pat McAfee. That was how Pat McAfee got big, was through Barstool. And then all of a sudden he gets big enough that he goes off on his own and you don't have any ill feelings. Like it's not a breakup. It's not a goodbye. It's just to see you later. See you around.
I hope to have them on. That was fun. The last time we had John obviously multiple times. Mike, it was fun getting them both on last time.
Mike's a hoot.
my mom was like, I really enjoyed that. I was like, well, my mom's enjoying that with us. So
we would have like hundreds of more viewers, and it would just be for Mike. Like,
Mike, you need to come on board. You got to help us out with that one. Give us some cheap views in, I guess, right?
You just put them in the movie, and then people come, Eddie Murphy,
I
love you.
So how do you feel about it? Me and Tyler kind of talk about this on our show. Like, I mean, it's obviously Talking the Gridiron. We're going to get here, and like we said, but real quick here before we kind of get into all the nitty gritty stuff here. How are you as an off season person? Are you like, all right, I need to know the details here with that? Are you kind of like, I'll follow the big stuff when we talk about something, I'll research it? Like, how are you as a fan that's into it during football so much? Is it kind of like, I need to decompress? How do you look at it?
I listen quite a bit. Like over half my shows, we'll talk a little bit. I mean, I get the Barstool side for more of the entertainment and like off-field stuff, but I do listen to Schlereth. I listen to the local sports radio stations. I'm trying to keep an eye on at least what I can because I'm reading the mindset book, so that's all part of it. But like choose your enemies wisely. The enemy is ESPN, so I'm watching ESPN to try and figure out what they're doing and what I can take. But I pay attention. But most of it, it's not like I'm invested. If something major happens with the Bengals or say the Broncos, that I'm there. So when Russell Wilson did get traded, there were a couple of times where Nico and I were talking about going down to training camps. We got all of those Let's Ride shirts. Like when big things happen about the teams that are here that people care about, we'll definitely jump on those. But like off season, this is technically the off season, but like Nico and I are such big basketball and hockey fans that I tweeted out.
But you're not like into the 49th man in the team. And
no, like, I'm not.
Not even into the Bengals?
Honestly, well, I used to be into the draft for the Bengals because we used to have the top 5 pick every time. And I know Doug, as he's tuning in for this, is going to hear that and he's going to get a kick out of it. But yeah, we used to have like a top 10 pick. So yeah, I used to love the draft. Now that I have a quarterback, I like the draft. I'm interested, but I'm not invested in the same way because I watched a ton of college football, but it's not like I've seen everybody. Specific people. I watch film. I would like to say I don't watch the All 32 because I don't know where John finds that.
Does that feel too much for you though? Like,
it's not too much. It's whatever you want to do. Like
what do you prefer?
Honestly, I treat it the same way that I treated it when I was playing in college because that's when it's kind of like a job. You go to practice 5 days a week. After practice, before school, you have weights, then you have meetings, then you go to class, then you go to lunch, you have 2 afternoon classes, you go to practice, you go to film, you're hopefully make it to dinner. Like it's professional-esque. So I would basically sacrifice everything. That's what the NFL players talk about. Yeah, Browns fans do love the draft. Tim Couch.
Yeah, you guys do love Tim Couch. Always got it. Well, I guess, Jimmy, my part in bringing that up is like, as we're Talking the Gridiron through the offseason, I don't want to BS people, but like we're looking at all the film. All right, my idea and your idea of doing this is like we're going to look at the best storylines, try to give it to you in the most entertaining way, and like that kind of perspective. So I think that's the way me and you are projecting this.
This way, nobody misses our beautiful faces, and like when people are
they get our good side, right? Just get the good side.
I can't figure. I'm still. It's a good thing that nobody can smell me through the computer screen because I am straight off the mat from wrestling practice. I've gotten to the point where I can jump rope for like 45 minutes, so I'm still drenched a little bit. I was wrestling a little bit more today, I honestly like the off season. We should do. I pay attention to it, but do whatever makes you. I play video games. I kind of lose myself in that. I don't take things too seriously. My dog and I have walked. Boomer and I have walked 222 miles since the start of last summer. Our goal was 350 by the end of the summer. We were never going to hit that. That was way too lofty, but I'm chasing down that 350 goal. So we're at 222 and he's chugging right along.
I'm getting a puppy in a couple of weeks here, so we'll see where that goes. That might without a puppy, but it's probably about 6 months old. Rev, any thoughts on Cincy's moves replacing Joe Mixon, Zach Moss replacing Reader? I guess before we kind of get into maybe the rules, since Rev did tune in there with that real quick, would you want to just go there with real quick since he's moves on it?
We can get my thoughts on it, and then when Jordan jumps on, we can get his thoughts, and maybe we can kind of mesh things together.
Let's do it.
He was hosting our show, Far End of the Bench, at FEOTB Pod, which everybody should follow and subscribe to as well. But we were talking about it, and honestly, it was just business. And when you're a team that's in a championship window, and Joe Burrow himself has said it, I think the city of Cincinnati is holding on to everything to say that every single season of Joe Burrow's career is in the championship window. As much as you love players, and I hope that we gave him as much flowers as he deserves, but I'll continue to do so because my wrists don't get sore like that. I have an incredible stamina now that I've been doing the things that I've been doing. Joe Mixon was a guy that when we drafted him, I was on the same page as everybody else, like the prison Bengals. Good thing we wear orange. These guys are all super comfortable. He had a really messed up situation in college, but he came in and turned himself into a pro's pro. He was a captain for like the last 4 years that he was here. Back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons sprinkled in there.
You guys were screaming for him to get the ball much more, I remember.
They should have. It was unfortunate. Unfortunately, it also worked out. Like our coaching staff, when you're this good, has gone and it's morphed. Our offensive coordinator 2 seasons ago when we went to the Super Bowl used him a lot more, used the running back a lot more. This year, it wasn't Joe Mixon's show. It was – they wanted – in all honesty, they figured over the offseason, I'm sure they had offensive coaches galore sitting up in the facilities, like drawing up how can we get Burrow to Chase and Burrow to Higgins as many times as possible, never thinking once that Burrow may have an injury, never thinking once that, hey, we got this back-to-back 1,000-yard rusher behind us. So when Joe Mixon replacing him, is Zach Moss going to be the same player? I think that you'll get similar. Here's how it replaces Joe Mixon. Chase Brown has to step up too. The guys that are already here have to get better. He's a hell of an athlete. He's a spark. He gets the ball in his hands and he can go anywhere. If you didn't watch him last season, he had a couple plays where he catches screens out of the backfield. Yes, the screen pass. And they still got their asses handed to them.
No, they did
in that game. But that was the best play of the game. And if he takes that next step, one of them has to be able to figure out pass pro. I would say that's the toughest part of replacing Joe Mixon. Sheldon Rankins. As long as we have somebody there, I don't think that he's going to be able to do what DJ Reader did because DJ Reader was a free agent you brought in expecting like a stopgap, like just a normal regular pro, and he ended up being a little bit better and I would say on that Pro Bowl cusp of player. I just don't. It's what they needed to do, but it's typical Bengals where they cut costs in specific areas, but they're also spending a ton of money in places that I wouldn't necessarily agree with, and it's a little bit of a convoluted. It is. It's convoluted. I have no idea what we're trying to accomplish.
I know you wanted to get back to the Bengals here a little bit, Jordan. I know we wanted to start with the kickoff thing, but as we did have breaking news, I think Vontae Davis, I don't know if you remember him, he's a cornerback. He passed away. It was a car accident, or so I didn't read what it was that he passed away in. But then you had a car accident with the receiver from Kansas City, Rice. I don't know if you heard about that. So the NFL having a little offseason drama like it does there, obviously, to the Davis family there, obviously, condolences out there. 35 years old, that's quite young. So in that regard, so a couple little kind of weird little kind of news there that wasn't always the best there for the NFL. We'll see how the Rice thing turns out, as he was a good player for the Chiefs this year. You leave in an accident, you would think a suspension of a few games is probably on the horizon.
I saw that the Kansas City authorities are looking for him, and that doesn't normally mean they're not going to just go check and make sure that he's okay. They're probably bringing him in because he's responsible in some way, and that's the toughest part. And that's why I wish the NFL, they get by on just having the rookie symposium and sitting these rookies down every time that they come in and having the vets talk to them. It's the same. I mean, we see it every year. I don't know what your school uses now. Ours is hashtag stop dabbing, but it's technically just dare rebranded. Like when you tell somebody what's going to happen and what not to do, unless you somehow drive it home, these guys have to learn the hard way. And this Rashee Rice is very similar to me to the Henry Ruggs situation, which was really unfortunate. And it's
Did
similar
you see
to
the
a story.
video of this one?
I saw a little bit of it. It was
you don't leave a scene.
No. And I get like I'm not going to say that I get it. It's an unfortunate part of our reality today where people would rather just leave and be in that piss poor of a situation than actually stand there. Like, stand up for what you did.
I mean,
you've already caused enough damage.
Moment to,
and you got to assume that somebody somewhere is going to know who you are, and they're going to report that it's probably your fault. So just
everybody
stay
has
there.
a phone.
If you stay there, you can at least help people and help mitigate the damage that you do. Maybe you're somebody who's able to get an extra person, the attention that they need. I don't know what exactly the details were about the victims or anything, but yeah, I mean, that sucks. He's not the only one. And he's not the only one of the NFL players. I have personal connections. Not the only one the
Chiefs have had to deal with.
Darren, I had a guy that was going to transfer from our D2 school up to D1. He was legit going to get a chance to be a starter at a D1 program and had some reckless driving, vehicular manslaughter. He's still in prison.
Was he drunk?
I think so.
Yeah. That's always a bit. Just real quick, Rev, hope you're doing well out there. I know we haven't been a while. Hopefully we can get you on here. It'd be fun to have this episode to comment in. We'd love to get your comments as we kind of touch on the AFC North here a little bit more. Rev was one of our always one of our favorite guests here on Talkin the Gridiron. If you're familiar with him, always one of the best. Always brings the insight with it. So yeah, a couple of things there with that. What did you think of the rule changes that you wanted to get into a little bit here? So we have the hip tackle, right? And what was the kickoff one? I'm going to just play it on the screen as we kind of talk about it just there. So
the kickoff one, from what I understand, if you kick it through the end zone, instead of it going to the 25, it'll go to the 30 because they don't want what the catalyst behind the rule and why the NFL is now looking to adopt it, because it did come from the XFL. So this is what they're trying to use the spring leagues for. But the idea is that the Super Bowl had 13 kickoffs, and all 13 kickoffs were touchbacks out of the end zone. So now if you kick it out of the end zone, you're just adding like a layer of skill. Normally, up until what we have with all the rules that are in place, it's better to have a guy that just has a mule's leg attached to his right hip or left hip, whichever one that he likes to kick with, and be able to kick it into the stands off the kickoff tee. That's been the strategy for years. Now it's going to be a little bit more finesse. It's going to be, can I put it? And honestly, this is what we did in college because we didn't always have kickers that were able to put it that far. So you kick it high outside and try and make it land within a few. The special teams coaches are fucking nerds. So they get it down to like it needs to land between the 16.5 and the 15.5 yard line at this angle of trajectory and drop it into the bucket. That's what we're going to be seeing now, because there's a landing zone. There is going to be no more fair catch inside the 25. That's not going to be a thing anymore. I think you can catch it in the end zone and kneel it, and that'll be just like a normal touchback where the ball goes out to the 25. If the ball goes out of bounds or doesn't get to the landing zone, comes out to the 40, like it would be a penalty. Let's see. I think you will no longer be able to surprise onside kick, because instead of having the kickoff team on the side of the opposer, like where they're defending, they're all going to start down. I think it's at the 35 with the protection line of the return team. And once the kick is fielded, then they're going to meet, instead of having that 30-yard or however long it is collision.
And it's like, if I'm a normal fan, like I've lost you at hello sometimes. You know what I mean? Like you go through all that, and it's like,
Darren, I explain shit to people who don't understand things for a living, and that took me a solid 15 minutes to try and get through.
Exactly.
That makes no sense. It does.
We just kick the ball off and return the freaking thing.
I mean, we could go back to that. Honestly, they got overzealous with adopting
the injuries, right? The injuries killed it.
There's not that many. If injuries killed rules, why isn't the hip drop tackle? Why is this just now getting banned?
I had it up on the screen just a second.
I know. And
what did you think of that one? You played the sport. That's a tough one, probably, for a lot of linebackers, I would think. Or is that one you believe that these defenders can control?
It shouldn't. I don't think that it should have its own separate rule. So say like there's a rule specific to the horse collar tackle. and there's a specific way that you identify a horse collar tackle. There's supposed to be a specific rule for targeting, and there's a way that you're supposed to see it on the screen and be able to identify it as targeting.
Yep.
I think what Rev is saying, because he happens to be, I said this was going to be a generational debate, and maybe it's not generational. I think it may be just wording and context and how it comes across. The way that the rule is now written, the referee has to. There's criteria. I feel like, the criteria for a 2-point basket in basketball is that you're within 30 feet of the arc of the hoop and you shoot it with 2 hands without taking 2 steps, and it goes through the net. Like, if you break it down into the simplest terms, this hip drop tackle now has to get broken down into the defender was even or behind. Here, I know, but so this is what the referee's now going to have to discern on like a split-second play when, these guys are running 25 miles an hour. Okay, he's coming at me. Is the defender in front or behind the guy carrying the ball? Did he start contact in front or behind? As he lunged, did he lose ground? And did he stop his momentum while grabbing the running back, which stops the running back's momentum and trying to pull him backwards? And did he land awkwardly on his ankle? Honestly, here's how the referees are going to decide whether or not to throw a flag on the hip drop tackle. Does it look like that guy's getting up? Because it's basically now a rule based on injury. What it should be, I think that hip drop tackle should just be rolled into this idea of unnecessary roughness. Because
your Bengals hurting Andrews there on one right there.
And that's here's what I will say.
I blame the Bengals and Logan Wilson.
Of course you would. I mean, you would.
What
were the Ravens going to do anyways? What were they going to do anyways, Rev? I don't think that it affected it that much. I feel like there was worse.
It's funny that the football players for all these years, they just did things. I mean, I guess the speed and all that changes. I think that's going to be an interesting rule, another rule for the defenders that they have to think about.
Well, this is, the reason why they started doing this, because this is a way to not helmet to helmet and unnecessary roughness blow somebody backward. But this is, every time one thing changes, I'm teaching Taoism in class. So it's all about balance and yin and yang in the way. When you take one thing away, something will come in its place. So when you took away headshots and forearm shivers from the defenders, the running backs started running a lot harder and they started fighting for those extra yards. And now the response for the running backs fighting for these extra yards, but you still can't hit people in the head and knock them out, is the defenders get even or behind them and they jump on their back and stop their momentum. And unfortunately, it results in a lot of injuries. I really, truly hate every single time. Like, as a wrestling coach, I see things, scrambles happen. I've seen body parts bend in ways like, I don't ever want to see anything like that again. I think of like Willis McGahee's knee injury. There's certain freak things that just happen.
But that's
I would have liked to see the hip drop tackle. If it's blatant, if there is catastrophic injury, if there is legitimate, because it could be used to intend to injure. Think about what the New Orleans Saints would have been able to do with this tackle in 2009.
They could have tackled right like that, couldn't they?
Well, back then it wouldn't even been a penalty, but I don't think people were thinking about that. I think they were still thinking about, because that was.
I don't get it though. That's the thing. I don't think I'm trying to get. I don't think I asked it clearly. What do you
go?
I don't get what the hip drop tackles differently though. Like, what does that mean? Like, for you as a football player,
it is different. It is different because up until this point, it's been okay. Because what's been illegal up until this upcoming season? If you hit from the knee or below, that's dirty. If you hit from the shoulders up, that's dirty.
But so what's dirty about it, though? I don't get it. Like,
What's dirty about me hitting? So if I'm coming at you this way as you're running up the field, and I hit you right below your knee, wherever in your shin bone, and I have all these pads on, and I'm running full speed, I'm this 230-pound linebacker or safety, I'm going to hit your leg, and it's going to shatter. It's going to bend. Your ligaments are not going to be able to hold up to that, no matter how strong, no matter how big, no matter how many times you try and simulate that situation, you're not going to be able to hold up to it. But at least I see you coming. The hip drop tackle is a little bit different because you don't see the person coming, and it just hasn't been outlawed up until this point because we haven't seen – we started seeing the rule change about going below the knee when Carson Palmer got his ACL blown out against the Steelers.
But I guess
And
I
you
see that
started to
Logan
see.
Wilson play, Jimmy, and I don't see a dirty play.
It's
I mean, what am I missing as a fan? I'm like, that's just a tackle.
Can you put it up there? Can you put it up there again?
I'll put it
'Cause
back
maybe
up there,
can.
but like, I guess that's the thing as I get it back up.
I
That's
just
kind of what I'm
want to
saying, like,
see it again, and maybe if I walk myself through it like I'm trying to broadcast it.
like if I'm watching, like usually when I'm doing the hit, like when you guys are explaining what, and I even hear people, I'm gonna get up here. I'm just gonna talk them through it for a second. I think I actually got rid of it. Sorry, but is real quick. But I guess I just don't get if you're grabbing by the hip, is the dirty part. I'm trying to see what the dirty part is.
The dirty part is jumping, so you leave your feet
okay,
and landing on the ankle. That's what Rev is talking about too. You jump and you leave your feet because nothing ever good happens when you leave your feet, and when you can't, you're moving your body and you end up turning. You start off like, I don't know if we're gonna say, so as I'm running down the field and we're gonna go on a clock, it's gonna be about 6:30. If you're diving at 6:30 to try and get me, there's a way that your body's gonna swivel because you're diving and it's like centripetal force. If we're going back to physics class, and again, this is way too much. I don't know why the referees are gonna have to do.
It's gonna be a lot for them to break down. You're right.
It's gonna be trigonometry, and they're gonna be on the video board even more. But Microsoft is going to get so much more airtime, they're not going to care. But if you jump from 6:30 and you dive with leaving your feet, you have no ability while you're in air to figure out where your body's going to land. So as you're coming around and you hit that angle, a lot of the times your body ends up coming around, and the only way for you to stop your momentum is to land your feet on the very vulnerable. I mean, it took out Achilles. So what do you think somebody's knees landing on your Achilles tendon, the back of your ankle? Like that's a shitty place to have anything
one.
happen.
I kind of see it. That one, the Wilson one, I saw. It comes across fast a little differently. But I appreciate you giving me that insight because that's a part of somebody that didn't play the game. Maybe I miss some of the ooh, that's dirty. Now Gino's a little different because I feel like he's pulling from behind. But some of those, I'm just kind of curious, how the NFL outlawed that.
It's very similar to the reason why horse collar tackles are outlawed. But the issue is they're putting too many words behind it, and I go back to it'll be interesting to see what you think about him because you know that I hold his opinion in high regard. But Mark Schlereth, who's been 3-time Super Bowl champion, former Hog, I listen to that guy when it comes to getting away with rules because he's an offensive lineman for 15 years. He knows how to hold better than anybody else on the planet.
He talks about it.
And he openly admits it. But you're changing these rules and you're adding in all of these extra contingencies for the Taylor Swift fans that are tuning in for a season. You're not doing this for the diehard, you, me, guys that want to watch every weekend, watch their team and see who's able to compete the best.
Absolutely.
And you're changing the rules for people that don't even give a shit. So why? Because
do you think the injury thing's real though with it?
It sucks. I think it's not necessarily how many injuries happen, but the catastrophe level of an Achilles injury. Knees are terrible, but nowadays everybody knows how to operate on a knee where you can kind of get yourself back in a reasonable amount of time. It's now shifted to Achilles is the one where it may come back, it may not. It's a little bit iffy. I think it's the severity of the injury that can happen because it's awkward. If you have your momentum going one way, but say best way you got to picture the biggest, strongest guy on the defense.
Now you made me see it a little differently now. I get it.
If James Harrison is jumping at you from behind, trying to take you down, you're going to get yourself wrecked.
That's the right guy to choose.
It's going to end up being a terrible situation when he lands on top of you and you're like, I think I'm going to die. I think this is it. I see the light and I don't want to live anymore.
I think that's
he's going to slowly walk to your head and just
cut me off. That's the right guy to choose too. I definitely wouldn't want to die on that guy. All right. You put that well. I appreciate that. I kind of, somebody that played, I kind of wanted to kind of get your thoughts on that as we kind of were, as you were bringing up the rule changes. I kind of looked into it and I was like, I got to see what he really means because some of the tackles are more obvious than the others on it. I know Jordan hasn't been on here yet, so I thought maybe if it's okay with you and Rev's on here with it. We talked about the Bengals a little bit with it. Can we get to this? Do you want to get Steelers off season a little bit with where we're at with it? You want to get where
they're the most talked about because they've done the most.
They might even talk. I've heard a rumor. That's why I was hoping Tyler was going to be on that. They're looking for Ayuk. I was like, no, don't give me that.
I don't know how they're going to be able to pull that off.
Justin
because what
Jefferson.
They've done. I was legitimately upset because they would always then, because you think of like Hines Ward, Santonio Holmes, the Steelers get lucky with these receivers, and Justin Jefferson in Pittsburgh, it would just work. It would underneath Mike Tomlin. I hate the Pittsburgh Steelers more than anything in this life. If the Bengals and the Steelers both went 0-17, I would at least be able to celebrate knowing that we share that shit sandwich with those. If I lose every game, I hope to God that they lose every other game. And if we can win 2 games every year, it's the 2 games against Pittsburgh that I want to win most. I love you, Doug. I love you. It's Cleveland. It ain't the same. I don't know what it is. It's the inferiority. It's like I don't know why did Anakin start to hate Obi-Wan? Only a Sith deals in absolutes. Well, I'm dealing in a fucking absolute. They killed my quarterback in 2005.
Should be back. Should be back.
They just
they get Russell Wilson. They get
Russell Wilson is interesting, but how are they going to accommodate Russell Wilson? Is Najee Harris going to pick up and be Marshawn Lynch 2.0? Tyler
Boyd, he wants your guy from Cincinnati.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's definitely a possibility because he's from Pittsburgh, and I'm not going to disparage anybody for going.
Do you like Fields or Wilson more going into next year? Like this is obviously we have a lot of time to think about this. We're just starting April.
I'm surprised you don't have the Russell Wilson workout video inside with his shades on, just to emphasize and drive this point home. They're going to start off with Russell Wilson, and I think that it's either going to go. Here's the 3. I think there's 3 scenarios. It's Josh McDaniels from 2009-ish, whatever his first year was with the Broncos, where they went 6-0 when he was cheating. So you like start 6-0, but then lose 8 out of your last 9 or whatever, and everything like that. So I think it's either that. It either goes in a way where they're just god awful, and Russell Wilson is totally blown out of town. Like it's very clear at this point he cannot play anymore. No matter the system, no matter if you give him the freedom, whether he can post TikTok reels or not, he is a terrible quarterback and a terrible actor, by the way. It's spicy.
Well, you don't think he's back with Mike? So do you think – I think Fields –
I think Mike Tomlin is about to – he's like going to pull his hair out.
It's weird that he has 2 guys like this. It's like the Steelers – it kind of feels like that one era when the Steelers, right before they kind of got good again with Bill Coward, where they had – it was Cordell Stewart and they had Neil O'Donnell, and they kept going back and forth. And then they had Tommy Maddox. And then they had this other guy, and they kept going back and forth. And it kind of feels like we're in this like weird little era, and they're still finish above 500. So it's not like we have to worry about that. We all know they're going to go 9-8 somehow next year, Jimmy. But
I know that they're going to be over 500. But they got very lucky this season. The Browns were able to make the playoffs, but they limped, and like it was a very high overachieving defense that had a lot of injuries they were able to overcome. The Bengals had a lot of injuries. Like Joe Burrow just existing and being able to play football in this division changes things because he is still the number 1 quarterback in the AFC North. Everybody else is going to come at me and say this guy. No, Joe Burrow is the only other quarterback in the AFC currently that has been able to beat Patrick Mahomes and make it to the Super Bowl. So until anybody else can fucking say that, that is the best quarterback besides number 15 over there in Kansas City. It is different for this division moving forward. So Russell Wilson, hopefully it's very clear one way or the other. If there's any gray area, that's where things are going to start to go off the rails for Steelers fans. And I'm going to start celebrating in my parents' basement because they're going to be like, it's Fields, it's Wilson, it's Fields.
Who's dropped off farther, Wilson or Fields? Since like Fields.
Honestly, it's interesting to me that Fields had 0 value left to give. I thought somebody somewhere was going to overpay for him, but nobody did. Nobody did.
I
I thought the Raiders,
Yeah.
you and Anthony's Raiders, I thought they were going to be somebody that might overpay for a guy like that. He's got a name. He's still on his rookie contract. You can pick up a 5th-year option, I believe. Maybe he's on. Maybe he has.
I thought that was happening.
It could have been, but we are where we are. And
God. So do you, as a Bengals fan, like they have Wilson and they have Fields now. Last year they had Pickett. Is this a better team then, right?
I don't fear anybody anywhere on this Steelers offense. I don't fear Pickens. I don't fear Johnson. I don't fear Najee Harris. Firemouth. Who else? They drafted another tight end at a Notre Dame that I can't think of it. Oh, Mayer. I think they have Michael Mayer now too.
Michael Mayer. That's my Raiders guy there.
Anthony. Oh no, yeah, okay. No, it's just I don't fear anybody on this offense, but if TJ Watt is out there and TJ Watt is playing and TJ Watt is healthy, TJ Watt is the biggest goddamn problem in the NFL. So it's very close between him and Myles Garrett, but I've said this story a lot. I had a terrible medical episode in college, and it was the weekend that the Bengals ended up being on Monday Night Football, so I got to watch them play the Steelers on Monday Night Football, and TJ Watt sacked poor Andy Dalton from behind, from in front. One time he hit him so quickly that he hit his head on his other tackle's ass going down the other way. I was just like, I was sitting, IVs sticking all out of me. I'm like, what the? This is, I get to finally watch them on TV, and this is what I get to watch? Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this?
That's the thing. It's always going to come down, it feels like, to the Steelers defense. Anthony, I got a trivia question later. Let's see if you can answer it. If you got it held on here with it. Comment, Bengals are the best team in the North. I think, Jimmy, we kind of talked about them a little bit before we go back to them. How about the Browns now? What do you think about the Browns in this division? They get Jameis Winston. They get Jared Jeudy. They extend Jerry Jeudy. That might be the biggest kind of question mark of the whole thing. And then they get Zadarius Smith, who's a pretty good player. Maybe a little bit drop off there from a couple of years ago, obviously with the Ravens and then the Packers. And then I have kind of just a know who will run the ball for the Browns. What do you kind of make of the Browns again? And, Chubb's out for a little bit longer.
I think it's unfortunate for the Browns. Yeah, the Browns are the Browns. You're a factory of sadness. Cleveland, until you decide what your identity, what your football team is going to be, until you decide that we're going to be embracing the blue collarness of our town and the toughness of our town and be just a smash mouth team, which is what they tried to do when they had that offensive line. Like when Baker Mayfield won the playoff game, that was how that team was built. And I think that's the best way for this Browns team to be successful. That's what the AFC North is all about. And they've been around long enough. I don't know what the hell they forgot, but they forgot that you need to have a really good offensive line. Your quarterback can be mediocre as long as he doesn't lose you the game. If you have a good running game, if you have a really solid defense, you are able to win games in this division. When you win games in this division, because of the weather, the way that it is, and that there's a lot of things going for this AFC North team. But the Browns do not have an identity. They are backing. They are trying. Right? Daren, how difficult do you think that it would be to be a player on the Browns and have to think about who you have to defend?
Yeah. Their identity is Garrett right now. That's what it is. Right?
But it's not. It's not because in the playoffs, where did they go? Where did that defense go? And where did that defense go every time that they had a away game? I believe the Browns were the
right. He's not.
I believe that the Browns were the team that I said, when you get to the playoffs, the flaws don't normally go away; they normally get amplified.
You were right about the Browns all year. That was
they sucked on the road.
We were maybe wrong about them getting to the playoffs, but we were right. We knew they would come up short when they needed to. Partially the quarterback play moving forward, but there was other parts too. Watson being the biggest part is his health is always an issue. That's going to be a big thing. And then Chubb's out at the beginning of the year. The defense is going to be. I don't know if they can win as many miracle games as they did last year. That's my thing.
I think it's going to be very similar to the Vikings because the Vikings 2 seasons ago were in the
call.
playoffs.
I like that.
and it was all the one-score games. I think they were like 6-1 or 7-0 in one-score games, and the Browns were very similar. Who knows? I mean,
no, that's a good call right there.
If Deshaun Watson from 2018 shows up, this Browns team could be very dangerous. If Nick Chubb is able to come back healthy, like there are certain things, but it's just not the norm. It's not what I'm expecting, and it's the Browns.
Yeah.
They're a factory of sadness. Why would I ever expect anything to go right for the Cleveland Browns? I'm half expecting Jim Irsay to swoop in, buy the Browns again, and move them just out of spite.
Watson is terrible, Anthony. He hasn't been good. It's funny, those Browns.
He's been rubbing on hard times, okay?
He's never been.
It's been very difficult. He's very stressed. He can't get his normal, release before the games. It's difficult. It's bad.
I agree with Rev, though. The defense still looks very scary, but the offense does remain highly questioned. I say the running game. They get Zadarius Smith. They get Judy. Can Judy excite you that much? I guess we'll see if him and
I don't think that's a good signing, and I think that it's hilarious.
It seems weird to me. Why would they give him an extension like that?
Because they're grasping at straws. That's part of the reason why I say they don't know who the fuck they are or who they want to be. They don't have a single shred of identity, because if you've seen anything about Jerry Jeudy, he's a locker room cancer. He's a cancer, and he cannot catch he bitches and complains about not getting the ball thrown to him, and it hits him right in the hands, and he drops the football.
Yes, he does. He did that a few times.
Don't throw it to stone hands. Just get off the field or get better. But don't be whining and complaining about all the looks that you don't get when you're a bum. You have equivalated to what's a bum. You're the 14th overall pick from Alabama.
Do better. I remember Nico was not happy. I think he was on that one episode. He had a couple drops out this year on our Talkin the Gridiron. How about a team that is stable in your division? And that's the Ravens. I mean, they don't win the playoffs, but they do. They are very. They end up getting Derrick Henry,
They're still my biggest worry in the division.
Not a surprise they get Henry, it feels like, right? Kind of feels like an automatic signing for them in some ways, just because he fits their personality. They re-signed the defensive tackle. I said, are they favorites again there? Is that how you're looking at them? Are they the heavy favorites, I guess, as we kind of enter the early part of the as we get to the draft part of the offseason here?
They're not the favorites. You know why they're not the favorites?
Why is that?
It goes back to what Anthony said. I mean, the Bengals are the best team in the division. If Joe Burrow is healthy, and there is no question marks about whether or not he's going to be healthy, the Bengals are the number one team in this division, and the Ravens should be very lucky for that, because they get to fly under the radar. Because think about it, Darren, when you heard people talk about the AFC North going into last season, who was the team that they were talking about? I think you can maybe say there were two or three, but it wasn't. There was one team that was conveniently left out for a lot of it, because people had already kind of written them off. They had this situation going on. Do you remember hearing much about Baltimore last year?
No, not as much.
Did they kind of come out of fucking nowhere and be a really solid team?
But I always feel like they're there, though, don't you think? You even kind of – maybe it's because I do the podcast with you so much, and you're kind of always there by ear. Like,
I gotta put the confidence in my – if nobody else is going to fill me with confidence, I listen back to all these shows. I got to be like the one positive voice that I can hear about the Bengals.
I know. I'm like in my head, I'm like, well, I know the AFC North is – like some people out here, they're like, what do you think of the Ravens?
People shouldn't listen. But you're listening to me about all this shit? Okay.
I'm like, I got you in my – I'm like, the Ravens – no, this guy hates the Steelers out here. Trust me, the Bengals hate the Steelers.
Pittsburgh's the worst city in America, and Baltimore's
Do you think Henry, though, is the difference maker in some regards? Is he just kind of a fill-in like Ingram was?
It'll be very interesting to see how people address him. I think that him and Lamar Jackson kind of pose an interesting threat for a few weeks, but it's going to be a fad. I see it lasting about as long as the Wildcat did.
So he's basically a line back, you feel like?
No, I mean
short yardage.
I don't know if Derrick Henry's a good running back for what Lamar Jackson does best, which is the RPOs. It's being in shotgun and riding a guy for a few seconds. Derrick Henry's a under center downhill back. It's going to be a transition. I still put them at 2 in the division, because those two guys, you have a former league MVP and a guy that very easily, if he never got injured or if his stud left tackle never got injured in a couple of years, could have rewritten the NFL rushing record. because Derrick Henry a couple of years he was on Eric Dickerson's heels, but he always either had an injury to himself or an injury to somebody key at the time. I don't know if he fits in the scheme, but if you think about Lamar Jackson and if you think about Derrick Henry, what do we always say about running games? You need a lightning, you need a thunder. Well, there ain't no more lightning, there ain't no more thunder.
Thank you,
that's
Ron Dane and Tiki Barber for that, right? That's who we can thank for that.
Tiki and Rondé have a little bit of a splitting to do. They're kind of, I guess is it Tiki? Is Tiki the running back? I think I feel like I like Rondé, but Tiki was always kind of a.
Well, no, that wasn't Rondé. I thought it was Dane. Maybe I'm getting this first name wrong. He was from Wisconsin, and they were named Lightning and Thunder. You're right.
Well,
Rondé
you have
others though.
Lendale White and Reggie Bush is like the other one that everybody thinks about because that was USC.
That's a good call. That one.
And Lendale White. Shout out Lendale White, Denver South Vikings, Colorado baby.
74 people in here. Appreciate you guys tuning in on an off-season edition here, Talking the Gridiron. Jimmy and I were kind of blown away at the success we had last year, so appreciate anybody kind of coming in.
Dwayne, Rev says.
Ron Dwayne.
I bet you Rev gets that trivia question that's coming up. Everybody else.
Ron Dane, yes.
Everybody else should try and beat Rev in this trivia question because I have the most confidence. If I'm setting the odds, he's got minus odds on my end.
I think Rev might get that. Then you're right. All right, so Ravens there, where you kind of talked about that being the favorite with it.
I don't think that Abuke. I don't think that's not it.
Not a big deal.
Didn't they? They
lost exciting for him. That's a lot of money to give him.
Yeah, no, but they lost Queen. They lost one of their really fast running backs that makes up for a lot of holes in your defense. Are they going to be able to make up for that?
Did you want to get back to maybe we talked about your Bengals here? Maybe we don't have to talk about them forever, but like I did want to kind of just real quick before we get to a couple offseason notes and then to the trivia question here. Did you have any thoughts on the T. Higgins part? Like Zach Taylor did come out, like I think the other day or maybe today even, and was like, "No, we're signing him. Like we're getting him." Are you as confident as Zachary Taylor in getting T. Higgins back?
I think that's what he has to say.
But you don't feel that confident.
I would like to think, because here's what we all can know, and this is what people don't always hear about Zach Taylor. And this is also coming from a guy. So if you're fans of Far Into the Bench, you know how far I've gone on this guy because I'm fairly certain in my era. When we first started this era, I was very bitter. Like I hadn't started going to therapy, Darren. So I held on to a lot of stuff and all the wrongings. I called for Jared Bednar's head. I called for Joe Sakic's head. I called for Zach Taylor's head. All before they ended up taking my teams to the finals / winning championships. Yep. So I've been through a lot with Zach Taylor, and he's been up until the last 2 seasons when they finally had Callahan now go. They were the longest tenured offensive defensive coordinator and head coach for 6 years. So I'd like to think that they have a culture. Like if you like what this team is, I feel like this is why people are willing to take the money and willing to come to Cincinnati because it's very obvious and it's very well known that Mike Brown is very cheap. So I think that if I would like to believe all of these stories that I hear and that this whole situation.
Come on, you're gonna do it, Jimmy. Come on, you're gonna do it.
I honestly, maybe it is the best thing to keep him on a franchise tag and figure out what we're able to get for him in a trade because hey, we have to let Boyd go without getting anything. What I love,
trade him, Jimmy. You can't trade him. You'd be so pissed, right? That'd be like an AJ Brown.
I would like no. Here's the thing. I would like to figure out if I can get something for him in return. If he truly is as pissed off as what it sounded like from his agent about being placed on the franchise tag, then okay, I get it. I'm sorry. It's like, you said the wrong thing in an argument. You went too far. It was warranted because you guys were fighting, but it's a little bit too much. You need a little bit of a break. I just can't get over that one. I'm sorry. That one hit a little bit too close to home. Okay, T, that's fine. But here's the thing. I want to be able, let's talk about how we're splitting financials. I don't want to lose my box set of Lost or The Sopranos. So what are we going to do about the DVDs? Let's work this thing out. Either we're going to go to counseling or we're going to figure this out and what you're saying, we're going to keep T, or I want to be set up to where I can go out to the bar. We sign the divorce papers Friday night. I go out to the bar Monday and I got somebody locked and loaded. And maybe that's the draft because maybe the best player available left when we're picking it happens to be a receiver or another pass catcher. But I think you either got to figure this thing out or you got to let it
You can't let him go. You got to him and Chase.
If you let him go, you better damn well get something for him. Is my only thing. I would rather not let him go, but if he's gonna leave, you cannot walk away empty-handed.
I also noted that I didn't write it down there, but I should have. I feel like you guys, as we were getting ready for the show, I was like, you guys, I think that tight end from Georgia, I keep hearing about it.
He's like, not falling to 18. There ain't no way.
That'd be a nice fit if you could get him, though, for Mr. Burrow. Nice little tight end like that. You got to like that one if we get somebody like that. Hey, before we get to NFL trivia here, what did you think of the other edge rushers that were signed? We had Clowney go to the Panthers, who's kind of somebody I saw in a tweet. They showed that South Carolina play against Michigan. They're like, this guy's really still getting paid off this hit. So yeah, he goes to the Panthers, and then you had the guy from the Eagles getting traded to the Jets. We just talked about
Haason Reddick.
Yeah, he gets traded to the Jets for a 3rd-round pick. Those were kind of the two big, I guess, moves this week as we were kind of getting ready for Talking the Gridiron. Any thoughts on any of those ones? Both defensive ends. Clowney's kind of man, what a weird career, right? Like that play really just shot him up to like a different level.
Yeah, and the fact too that I feel like it's always going to be talked about because the tackle that was on that side that blew his assignment that allowed for that play to happen. You know who that was?
No, I don't.
Taylor Lewan. There's my trivia. So the busting with the boys guy is the tackle that totally botched that assignment and allowed for Jadeveon Clowney to have probably the most dominant play that I've ever seen in college football. Yeah, he literally hit the running back 4 yards in the backfield, popped his helmet off. The ball comes out, and he picked the ball up, fumble recovery with one hand. The only thing that would have been better is if he would have been able to keep his balance, pick it up with one hand, and go to the end zone.
It's an unreal play. It really is.
It's awesome. And that was also when Steve Spurrier wasn't spending 18 hours a day on the golf course and actually coaching South Carolina. So the Gamecocks were something to be reckoned with. It was a wild time in college sports.
Is it taking the Panthers over the top, Jimmy? As Clowney taking them over now?
The Panthers, as long as White Goodman is the owner of the Panthers, I don't think the Carolina is going to be able to improve themselves very much.
I do like the Jets going all out, though, in a sense. Just like, whatever, right? You have a Rodgers. Why are we holding on? You know what I mean? In a sense, I don't know if he's the best guy. But it's
I feel like you've let other guys go that are better than Haason Reddick that you could have kept around. Like Leonard Williams.
He did have a bad year last year.
If you keep Leonard Williams, he's gone to New York, and now I think he's even somewhere else. But that was a guy that was there, and if you just put an offense, he was an anchor on the D-line. He was there with Quinn Williams. He was there with Quincy Williams. Everybody's older, a year older. And Haason Reddick, the fact that you were able to get him for a 3rd-round pick should tell you something.
No, you're right. I'd rather have some of the picks, like Mixon went for a 7th-round pick. That stunned me, man. Like I guess that shows the running back market, right?
It is the running back market, and I don't know why, because he can. He's at least better at it than he was when he came in. Yeah. The book on Mixon is that he can't catch the ball out of the backfield, and I haven't seen the inability to do that. I just never think that the Bengals did that with him. That's why he doesn't get paid. I just heard Saquon Barkley on another podcast saying, like, if you're a weapon, if they think that you can run routes, then you're going to get paid. But if you're just a straight up running back, no, you're getting the short end of the deal. You're renegotiating your contract. They're not even asking. It's either renegotiating or I'm cutting you. I don't need to deal with this.
That's what's kind of fun about that. If we get these little moves here at the end of the kind of like free agency, and there's still a few more out there, like TJ Boyd. We might still see a few others out there. All right, hey, Jimmy, as we got to get to the hour mark here, about 5 minutes short of it. I had this look back video. This isn't the trivia question yet, but did you hear about, Deion Sanders' son came out, and Deion came out about hey, I don't want my son playing in cold weather, which is kind of funny, but all that kind of like, there was like those kind of comments. Here's Eli Manning right before the 2004 NFL draft. It should be 20 years ago. Here's Eli Manning right before the draft getting interviewed.
Why don't you want to play for the Chargers?
We're not really giving details right now. We just we've made our decision, and that's what we're sticking to.
Who's influenced you the most?
Just it's not really an influence. This is my decision. It was
my dad.
I wanted to do this. I was not told to do this. So we talked about it, and I thought it was the best idea, so I went with it.
The Chargers call your name when I talk to you after the pick. Will you be wearing a Chargers hat?
I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Good luck, guys. Thanks.
Well, Why can't we see
with
Archie's
the,
hand on the screen? He's pinching
First choice
Eli's
in the
ass. He's like,
2004 NFL
better
draft,
say what
the
we
San Diego
planned for you to
Chargers
say.
select Eli Manning,
I like his
quarterback,
face.
Mississippi.
Oh, Eli. We get a pick there. Eli gets picked there with that. I thought that was kind of a funny one.
Why don't you want to go to San Diego? Because I'm never going to win anything in San Diego.
LaDainian goes there. 20 years ago, Jimmy, that was the case with it. The draft, kind of honestly for me, I would have been 2 years out of high school at that point. So I was at Eli Manning. We had there Robert Gallery, Larry Fitzgerald. I'm going to do some videos with that. I saw some this week where like previews getting ready for the games. And I'm like, oh, as we do these off-season things, you guys are going to see some funny stuff of like Mel Kiper breaking down some like them as college players. So we'll get that on there. I know you'll enjoy some of that with it. But I thought
Leaf is going to be the best quarterback that's ever come out of college football ever.
I thought it's kind of funny with that coming out with you living in Colorado. You have the Dion thing kind of coming out with him and Hunter. And then you have Tyler made a lot of tweets about it this week, who does the show with me. And then I just played that clip. I don't know about you. I know I saw it, but I didn't really know it. And it's kind of funny hearing that back, right? Like it is kind of funny though, like 20 years ago.
Honestly, you have to wonder when it comes to Dion, because everybody knows how much of an impact saying that Dion said something can make. You have to wonder like how much of a liberty. Where's this? You consider the source a little bit. I think that's what Nico and I had to learn last year with Coach Prime, and I feel like maybe the people in Jackson State had to learn that too. But
that's a good point.
It's just like, he has so many eyeballs on him, and he's making his kids and himself so much money. Is somebody just trying to get the clicks on what they posted so that they can put food on their table, or is this something that he actually said? I as much as a prima donna as everybody says that he was, I mean, the guy did work hard. You do not get into the Hall of Fame being lazy.
No.
And you do not do it the way that he did it. Like, everybody knew if he was on one side of the field, you could not throw to that side of the field.
Nope.
Yeah, you could run because he can't tackle, but you could not throw anything to that side of the field.
It is interesting, though, with him being there with Colorado, saying his son, like projecting where his son might want to play. And then Eli here in 2004, it is kind of funny that getting that little vibe with it where the court, like, hey, this is next year, though, so we'll kind of see where that goes.
Shadir's got to worry about keeping his ass up on his feet. Hey, Dad, instead of talking all this shit out in the media, can you hopefully recruit an offensive line that can keep me off my ass for more than 4 plays a game?
That would be useful. All right. Hey, NFL trivia. Here it is with it. Before we get out here, we get to the hour mark on the show here with it. Talking the Gridiron. Jimmy's been with it. Jordan not able to jump on tonight. He's doing a lot with Ohio Sports Talk here, Variety Sports Network. We'll be with you kind of probably every other week throughout the offseason here, kind of getting you ready on some of the divisions. We'll probably be doing a preview. My guess is, Jimmy, with the draft at some point there, that'll probably be our next.
We'll probably have to talk about that. Yeah.
At some point, we'll probably do something with that, but we'll see. Here, hit number 1. Who am I? I was taken 19th overall in the 2000 NFL draft out of the University of Alabama. Jimmy, if you're not familiar with my other shows, I usually give 3 hints here. So I can give hint number 2 if you want to take a guess there with it.
That's fine. Because I'll take all my hints before I ask my question.
I have a 3-time Pro Bowler. I have 1 MVP trophy. I am on the all 2000s NFL team. I have that as well. Hint number 3 and final one. I played for the Redskins my final season. I played the other 8 seasons with 1 NFC franchise.
Damn it, Rev. You're too quick, because I was about to say the same thing. He was on the cover as a Seattle Seahawk of all places. Yes, it was Sean Alexander, 2005. Madden 05, Sean Alexander. That was the first time I remember seeing the pacifier mouthpiece being like as popular as it ended up being. But Sean Alexander, a little the first one threw me for a second, but no, Sean Alexander. That was Alabama's always been able to produce running backs.
I'll have to get you guys on one a little harder now if I know you guys are up to that task with it. So it's always fun. I usually have a video with it in the future with it too. I remember Sean Alexander against the Raiders coming onto the scene like 220 yards rushing on like a Saturday game. I was like, who is this guy? I was like, my God, who is this guy on a Saturday breaking tackles in the rain out there? So Sean Alexander, he's one of those guys I always say, like I always like to joke, my kids will probably not know about this guy unless they see like some rare video. But he for 3 years, if you look at his rushing, like I think I looked at it today, looking at stats, Jimmy, 320 320 attempts, 350, 370 back-to-back years. That's pretty insane. That's why you have a 9-year career.
Hey, he's Steven Jackson. He's East Coast. Yeah. He's West Coast Steven Jackson. Shout out Variety Sports.
Oh, that's a good one.
We know that you guys are jumping all over the fact that I just mentioned Steven Jackson's name.
We love you, Steven. That's a good call for a trivia as well. So I'll have to get you and Jordan on the next one. On one is with it. Hey, Talking Gridiron Hour. I think Jordan, thank you for Jordan. No, you couldn't make it tonight. We'll get you probably in a couple weeks with it. Jimmy, I know you've been busy with wrestling. I've got a school cut starting up tomorrow with it. We're going to try to keep it going every couple weeks. That's the idea behind it. We're going to try to help each other out with it. We're all busy. So once in a while, you might see one of us off the show, but we're still with it. We're all here on it on Talking the Gridiron as we get closer, obviously, to the offseason and some special episodes. We'll all kind of make it get back together. But Rev, it's kind of always, we got to get Rev on. I appreciate his comments. He's always good stuff. Anthony, appreciate him tuning as well. AFC North. Off season, you got a little look back at it. Hopefully, Bengals. A lot of people feeling good about your Bengals headed into the year, though, Jimmy. So we'll see what we get here.
Expectations bring disappointment. That's all I know. That's the attitude reflect leadership, Captain.
Waterboy. Hey, that's what me and you have been through.
Remember the Titans, not Waterboy. Remember the Titans, the other one.
Remember the other one. So you
got a job. I got a job. You've been doing your job. I've been doing my job.
And one of my favorite movies ever is that one, too. I love that Waterboy movie. One of the best ones with it out there in terms of entertainment. Doug, if you're ever out there, we got to do a rewatchable for sure. Down to join after the pre-show. Yeah, we should do a draft little show after the draft, and we'll definitely do a recap. That's probably where we're kind of looking at as we're going to make our way through the offseason. We'll probably do one big draft thing. We'll probably do a little one big thing there. But me and Jimmy, we'll be honest, like we do. If you're doing a show like we are,
I'll be doing more
Sunday
like
night,
Sunday scaries, like that kind of stuff. It'll be every other week. I can probably promise to every other week, but this is. I enjoyed doing a show with you, and I enjoyed doing a show with Jordan. But like, it's fun because we don't get to do it all the time. If we overdid it, I feel like everybody. I feel the same. Almost 100 people. I think we have over 100 people tuning in live with us tonight, and I feel like that's because they missed us last week. So now they get to worry about what are we going to say this week? What are the two teachers possibly going to get themselves fired saying this week?
And that's the thing too, is like I think you have to realize, like a lot of people do. Like I know we talked to like people that do football. We did a grind. That's like 20 straight weeks basically. That's why we're in with it. So like,
and I missed 3 of them. I missed 3 of them being out of the country, and you and Jordan, like I was fairly impressed. We did not take very many bye. I think we took maybe as many bye weeks as the NFL team.
The only bye week we took was moving it to Monday or Tuesday. That's the only bye week we took because that's what we want to do. We want to give you guys NFL talk, and we believe in consistency here on Variety Sports Network. So Talking the Gridiron. Appreciate everybody joining into this evening with it. Jimmy Pilato, another good show here on Talking the Gridiron. I'm sure we'll get Jordan on. I'll probably be here in a couple weeks. We'll probably do another division here. Probably the AFC East, I'm guessing, maybe based on the way we're moving through the AFC. But I'll let you make that call. I'll let you make that call on that one here in a little bit. We'll kind of make our way through that. But we'll probably be close to the draft as well. So we'll probably have a lot to talk about with that too. So have a good week at school this week, my friend. Finish out the week well. And Jordan, we'll see you on the next one, my friend. So for Jimmy Pilato, Variety Sports Network, far end of the bench. Be sure to tune into that as well. Darren Breyer, Fat Boy Fadeaway Sports, Talking the Gridiron. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.